Hey there, Internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of What I Feel Like Friday. This is probably going to be the most niche video I've done yet because I am going to be speaking specifically to Phoenix Theater, which is the local musical theater in town, which I used to work for. They just sent out this week an announcement of their 2018-2019 season, and so I'm just gonna give my little reactions to that. So if you are not in the Phoenix area, this has no care in the world for you, but it's something that intrigued me, and so something I feel like talking about. It's the 99th season in 2019-2020. That will be their 100th anniversary season. So that'll be a big old milestone year for them, and I'm sure they'll basically be like blockbuster, blockbuster, blockbuster. But for season 99, they've got a 9-show season. They're kicking off. Well, I don't know what they're kicking off with because they've got 2 TBAs announced in their season or shown in their season. And what that typically means is that somebody else in town is doing those shows and they can't advertise them until after the shows have played through here. So like Hamilton right now is going on. I guarantee it's not Hamilton that they're doing, but it's that kind of thing that if it was, they couldn't say, hey, we're doing Hamilton because the ASU Gamage right now has the rights for it in that production, so they wouldn't be able to advertise and try and draw an audience away from the current production. So I don't know what's starting things off, but I'm just going to go through kind of the order that they announced things, and we'll talk about what I think. So first up was West Side Story, classic. Phoenix Theater is kind of best known, I think, for their big classic musicals, the elements of the canon, like something like West Side Story. They're doing Godspell and Little Shop of Horrors are their last couple shows of this season. So West Side Story absolutely seems like right up their alley. I imagine they'll do kind of the slightly modified one that kind of made the rounds a couple years ago. Probably best known because Lin-Manuel Miranda came in and after In the Heights, and he basically fixed up the script a little bit to turn a lot of the stuff the sharks have in there into Latin or Spanish, basically, to kind of honor their I think Puerto Rican roots. Yeah, Puerto Rico is one of the songs. So I imagine that'll hopefully feature a lot of local Latino talent. I know when they did In the Heights here a couple years ago, it got a little bit of controversy because they had an Iranian man, great guy named Pasha, but they put him in the lead role, and people were like, "That's not the cast, basically. Don't cast a non Latino in a Latino role," was kind of the little bit of controversy that courted that. So hopefully they won't run into a similar situation with this version of West Side Story. I imagine they'll probably end up bringing in a lot of out-of-town talent for it, though, because that's typically one of those big shows that they bring in the New York actors for. Up next, we have Fun Home, which I had the pleasure of seeing in this most recent season here at Gamage, and I really enjoyed it. I think it'll be a great show for Phoenix Theater to do. You've got a few younger characters in that show, children in particular, and Phoenix Theater doesn't have the hardest time, getting children actors in there, but they can sometimes be very hit or miss. So hopefully they're able to nail that down. I imagine the father character, I can think of a couple local kind of stalwart actors that I think they'll probably slide into that role, slide one of them into that role. So yeah, it'll be an interesting show. I'm curious, and this will kind of feed into a couple of my later predictions, if having something like Fun Home will kind of drop their ticket sales a little bit because people would have just seen it here at Gamage. The theater diehards that might have subscriptions to both places. Anyway, up next, Elf the Musical. That's going to be their big Christmas show. I have no doubt it's going to, do gangbusters for them. The last few years, they've done stuff like Billy Elliot, as a Christmas show, Mary Poppins as a Christmas show, A Christmas Story, the musical, as a Christmas show. The Christmas shows always sell really, really well for them. White Christmas was a show they did a few years back when I was still working with them, and that sold out most of its run. So I have no doubt Elf the musical will be a great kind of family fun show that'll pack them in. Jersey Boys, another one of those kind of, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a classic musical, but it's definitely one of it follows all the, it checks off all the boxes of those classic musicals. In particular, in this one, it's going to be, the music of the Four Seasons, which the audience of someone like Phoenix Theater, which is, average age 60 plus, they're going to, show up and eat up that kind of show. Then they have their Festival of New Work, which they didn't specify any of the shows, but that's something they do every year, where they'll do a couple weekends usually, and they'll do staged readings, and they might have a couple fully staged versions of new plays that they're working on. You have another play called Airness, which I have no idea what that one's about, as well as Cookin's a Drag. Those are the two names that came up in this season announcement that I've not heard of either of them, and I didn't bother to do any kind of research in advance of this. One of my friends from Phoenix Theater that worked there when I worked there and still works there, she was mentioning that the new show by their artistic director is really, really good. So I'm curious as to if one of those is the show that he's workshopping and working on, if it'll be like a world premiere. The one I'm most excited about that they announced is the musical Once. I loved the movie back when I saw it, back around the time it originally came out, and then the musical version of it is one of the soundtracks that I have downloaded on my phone and I listen to every now and then. I got to see it when it came to Phoenix a couple years ago, and I was so moved seeing it the first time that I bought tickets to go see it again in the 1 week that it was here. So I very much love that show. I think seeing it at Gamage was an experience, but that show is it's Gamage. If you were unfamiliar and you're watching this for whatever reason, is like a 3,000 seat house or something like that. Phoenix Theater is 378 seats in their main stage, so it's a much more intimate affair, and I think that's where something like Once really can thrive. I have since first seeing the show and first ever really since knowing about the show, I knew Phoenix Theater would have it on its radar, but I've always been concerned because you need quadruple threats in that show, because you need actors who play music, play the instruments, as well as sing and dance, and so I don't know if Phoenix has a hugely deep pool of performers that kind of can check off all those boxes. It would not surprise me if this is another show that is heavily kind of filled out by outside of Phoenix talent, but I'm hopeful that some of my friends get to make it up on stage for that show. And then lastly, as I said at the top, they have a couple TBAs announced, and I have no idea what they're going to be, but I'm just going to speculate and make wild off-base predictions I love to do on the video game side of things. I imagine those will be my two pitches for what those might be would be The King and I, and I imagine it would be a TBA because that's another one that's coming through Gamage here March 20th through the 25th, I think, that week. So if that's the case, Phoenix Theater wouldn't be able to announce that they're doing it until after that run has completed. And then also they're doing the School of Rock at Gamage, and so that's my other prediction. I think that would be a fun show, a new modern show that Phoenix Theater could do, because they like to throw in one or two of those every season as well. So I think, and that's another one that I think they could really kind of lean into their summer programming, which is summer camp and conservatory type stuff, so they could really kind of have the really, really talented kids that they kind of work with in that program, maybe be the students in School of Rock. So those are my kind of predictions and reactions to the 2018-2019 season over at Phoenix Theater. I am probably going to end up picking up a subscription for them, because there's at least a handful of shows over there that I'm interested in seeing. So I look forward to what they're gonna put out on stage next year. If you're a Phoenix local and you've bothered to watch this for whatever reason, let me know what you think of that season in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.